So, thanks for taking some time to talk with me about how you manage your time. I think the most common question I get asked is, help me, can you understand how to manage my time better? Or a version of that. How do you manage your time? People will ask me. Time management is a great big deal for a lot of folks. So if you're a leader or a manager or a supervisor, you have some responsibility for influencing people, I want to share with you a small change you can make that'll make a big difference right away with respect to how you manage your time. It's a pretty big deal. A couple of ideas we're going to throw through here. So in this video, I'll show you 3 things that if you do them on a regular basis will make a pretty big difference in how you manage your time. Folks who manage their time well have a significantly lower stress load than folks who do not manage their time well. One of the questions I've also been asked is, how do you remain calm with all the stuff going on in your life? Well, I manage time fairly well. And I've learned how to do a few things that I want to share with you. In fact, it's possible that I learned some of this stuff from 1 or 2 of you, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the stuff you've shown me over the years. And I'm going to spread it around like good peanut butter so other people can enjoy it as well. So, do you get to the end of your day and feel like you haven't managed your time well? Do you get to the end of your day and feel like that there was so much more that you needed to do that you actually got done that you feel like it was a waste of a day? Do you find yourself focusing on really important things as the day goes on? Are you able to, on a regular basis, when you see a bunch of things that could be done or should be done in front of you, or you hear a bunch of demands on your time, are you able to fairly quickly say, I'm going to spend my time on this and not that, and then focus on the right things and not feel a sense of guilt or panic about not getting to the rest of the stuff? Are you able to get to the end of your day then and not feel like you actually wasted a bunch of time on a bunch of interruptions? So let's talk about how you can actually get to that place so that at the end of every single day, you're able to say, I really managed this gift of time very, very well. So it's possible that you manage other things better than you manage your time. Perhaps you manage your relationships better than your time. Perhaps you manage your physical health better than you manage your time. Certainly, you probably manage money better than you manage your time. But in fact, you and I are stewards over all of those things, and mostly we're stewards over time. We can get more money, but we can't get more time. We can get more opportunities, but we can't get more time. So if you think of yourself right out of the gate of a steward of your time, then the things I'm going to share with you will make a lot more sense. I pick the word steward carefully because if I'm a steward over something, I'm not necessarily the owner of it. It probably came from someone else or belongs to someone else, and I am there to take care of it in a way that is better than what that person could have taken care of it. That's a steward in the most strict sense. And you and I are stewards over time. We have been given time. We don't really know how much, but we've been given time, and it is our responsibility to treasure that time and to use it very, very wisely. So how do we actually do this? So stick with me to clear to the end of this video in just a few minutes, and I'm going to share with you not just 3 things, which we'll get into right now, but I'm going to share with you a bonus idea that will help you leverage your time incredibly well. So let's dive right into this idea of how you and I can manage our time incredibly well. All right, here's the first idea. Time management is self-management. I'm actually managing myself. I'm managing my impulses. I'm managing my emotions. I'm managing my appetite, and I'm managing myself. Time management isn't a math problem. It is a self-management challenge. So it shows up, my ability to manage myself, in how I manage my time more readily than any other area. So try not to separate the idea of time management from self-management, because they are one and the same. That's the first idea. Here's the second idea. Time management is not a habit that starts on autopilot, is triggered by something external to me, and then happens without me even thinking about it. It is a discipline. That is to say that a discipline differs from a habit in that it takes an act of will to get it started. Once we get a discipline started, once it has a little bit of momentum, which takes a few seconds actually, then the discipline actually begins to function just like a habit functions. We've spoken about that in some of our other videos as well. So time management is a discipline and not a habit. So understand a couple of things about disciplines. We never feel like doing the discipline in the first few seconds that we start acting on the discipline. We always feel like doing something else or doing nothing. So you will, for the rest of your life, never feel like doing the time management things that I'm going to suggest for the first few seconds. You will feel like doing them after the first few seconds. So don't wait around to feel like managing your time well, to feel like doing the right things that make your time well spent in order to start doing them. You start first and feel second. Time management is a discipline. I will never feel like doing it in the first few seconds of doing the things I need to do to manage that time. So get over that. Don't wait for the good feelings to come. They won't until after you start. Like all disciplines, time management, the action, the things I'll show you what to do coming up here in a few moments, those things you need to use an act of will for just a few seconds. Every discipline functions this way, by the way. Whether it's working out, or whether it's eating correctly, or whether it's communicating directly with people, or whether it's keeping your mouth shut instead of being critical and destructive in the way you talk. Whatever the discipline is that you have decided to do, all disciplines function just the same way. It takes an act of will to get it started, but once it starts, it'll function just like a habit. So don't pay attention to whether you feel like it in the first 10 seconds or 15 seconds. Just do it. Just do it now. Just do it right now, actually, when it comes to doing the discipline. We just heard a little while ago from somebody who worked with Donnie's brother, Ken. Do you remember this story about the Post-it note or the card that was on Ken's computer? I think is what it was. And he had, and it simply said, this Post-it note or this card, was it a card? Is that what it was?
A little note.
A little note. Mm-hmm. And it said, do it now? Is that what it said? Or it said, do it right now? That's what it said.
Just do it.
Just do it right now. I remember the phrase, right now. Yep.
I think it was right now.
Yeah, right now. Just do it right now, ... That was the card that Ken had on his computer. I don't know if Ken watches these videos or not, but that made such a strong impression on this person who was in one of our classes that he came up and talked about it. And he said that when Ken retired, who retired recently, he snagged that card and put it on his own computer. That is really the idea behind time management or every discipline. You don't wait to start a discipline until you feel like it. Do it right now, because we now understand that once we do the right discipline and do it correctly, do it right now, it's just an act of starting the discipline, and it makes a massive difference. So do it right now. Now here's a model that I want to share with you that will help you understand whether or not you're spending your time in the right buckets. Now I'm assuming that if you're listening to this, you're a leader or a manager or a supervisor or somebody who has influence over people. You're not working in a fire tower on top of a ridge all by yourself and nobody ever interacts with you, although that does sound like a fun job once in a while, doesn't it? But you're somebody who has influence over other people. I'm assuming that. So in that regard, you want to be able to know, am I spending the right amount of time in the right bucket? So imagine this now. Imagine a triangle, and at the top of the triangle, you will spend the smallest amount of your time in an area we call target. That means you spend some time making sure your team or your organization or your group is pointed in the right direction. That's called strategy. You spend a little bit of time on that. You don't spend lots of time on strategy. It doesn't take a lot of time to figure out, are we going in the right direction? And once you figure it out, you don't keep coming back to it and refiguring it out again. So the smallest amount of time in that triangle that you spend is on target. The next amount of time, slightly more down in that triangle, is on timing. The question is, you're going to be you're going to be spending some time thinking about the order in which things need to happen. We need to do this first, and then when that gets traction, then we do this. We need to do these two things concurrently, but this one has to wait until then. You have to figure out the order in which things need to happen. You've got to spend some time thinking about that. Timing. Not a lot of time, but some time. Then below that, in a larger area of the triangle, you need to spend time managing treasure. So now we're at a bigger part of the triangle, so you're taking up a percentage of your time paying attention to the treasure that you are responsible for managing. Is the treasure coming in correctly? Is the treasure going out correctly? Now, if you are in a for-profit organization, we call it revenue, we call it expenses, we call it profit. If you are in a not-for-profit organization, then you understand that there's revenue that comes into the organization that someone was either taxed on or they gave. And you want to be very, very careful about how you manage that treasure, because you are a steward of that treasure. It isn't yours. It belongs to someone else, and you're there to manage it carefully. So you're going to spend a chunk of your time on managing treasure. The bottom of the triangle, the biggest part of the triangle by far, is talent. Spend a big chunk of your time developing the people that you work with and work through. Pay attention to who they are, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, build them up, coach them. Spend a chunk of your time looking for people who can join your team. In fact, of all the 4 areas where you spend time, that is the largest. Spend most of your time focused on building up talent. How are you spending? How does that work? How are you spending your time? Does it fit that ratio for you? Now, this is not a triangle that's like this, super narrow. It's a triangle that's a basic shaped triangle. So that's about how you ought to be spending your time. Do a little bit of an assessment there around that model. All right, how? How do I actually manage my time? How about some basic, simple ideas, but you have to function using them like a discipline or they won't do you any good. You got to do them over and over and over whether you feel like it or not. Here are 3 ideas that I'm going to share with you now about how to actually manage this time well over which you are a steward. Number 1, first idea, look at how you actually spend your time. Actually look at it. This is like stepping on a scale and looking down, and you felt svelte, but you stepped on the scale and it said 1 person at a time, please. This is where you do an actual assessment of how you spend your time. Don't change anything. Don't change much until you truly understand how you're actually spending your real hours. I don't have any time. I'm so busy. I have no time. But if you looked at how you actually spent your time from the time you wake up to the time you fall asleep for a 2-week period, without changing much, you might discover you've got a whole lot more time than you thought you had. So look at how you spend your time at work, how you spend your time out of work. Take some notes on it. Look at how you actually spend your time. You may be shocked. Here's the second idea. Make sure that you take control of your time. If you do not take control of your time by making what's important, important, by making what matters, matter, someone else will take control of your time. And if there's no one else around to take control of your time, and you haven't, then your most basic selfish desires will take control of your time. And you will not be a good steward of your time. So take control of your time. Well, how do you take control of your time? Here's the third idea. Use a calendar. Use a calendar. It is amazing to me how often I interact with people who do not use their calendar. They're people like you. They're a leader, they're a manager, they're a supervisor, they're an influencer. They have responsibilities, big responsibilities, and they don't use their calendar. It is amazing how many times that I've set up a conversation with somebody and we've put it on the calendar. It's on mine. I know it's on theirs because they accepted the digital invitation, and I call them and they forgot. They never even looked at their calendar. It's amazing to me how few people use the simple discipline of putting it on your calendar. And then you look at your calendar. You look at your calendar at the beginning of the day. Oh, I got this and I got this and I got this. These are the places I'm supposed to be. So actually use your calendar. And not only just use it, but use it wisely. Because if it's not on your calendar, it's not in your heart. So my strong recommendation to you is that at the beginning of every month, you look ahead and say, is what's important to me on my calendar, and then put it on your calendar. At the beginning of every week, I do it on Sunday nights. You look ahead at the following week and you put what's important on your calendar. It's now a commitment. It's now a promise. And then the beginning of every day, you look at that day and you say, is this the day? Is this day, to the degree that I have the ability to move it around, one that fits what's important to me? That discipline you'll never feel like doing. But if you do it, it will make all the difference in the world. Don't rely on your memory, rely on your calendar, a written or digital calendar. That will make such a profound difference in your life that you will wonder, how did you ever survive without having done that? All right? That is how you manage your time. This assumes, of course, that you know what matters. This assumes that you know what's important and what you should be spending your time on. And I gave you a simple example in that triangle about a way to think about that. So, how are you going to use this stuff? I recommend you do that, all three of those things. Look at how you actually spend your time. Take control of your time and actually put it on your calendar. If you don't put it on your calendar, somebody else will grab your time and they will use it the way they want to use it. Or your simple, selfish desires will take control. All right, here's one more idea. Let me share this idea with you before we part. What happens if you have a day that's planned and you get interrupted in the day? What happens if someone says, got a minute? And you're a nice person, so you say yes when in fact you don't. You've actually made another commitment. What do you do with interruptions? This doesn't apply to all interruptions, but it applies to a lot more than you might think. If you have an interruption in your calendar, ask yourself the question, is this the best way to spend my time? Do it quickly and answer it quickly. If it's an interruption that's a physical interruption, stand up when the interruption happens. Stand up, because that will signify to that person this is a very short conversation. If somebody wants more than a minute, more than 60 seconds of your time, then you can say to them, this is important to me too, but I can't spend time on it now. Let's spend time on it at another time, and whip your calendar out. Does tomorrow at 8:30 work for you? Like that. And then when they start back on their story again, like they're going to spend another 11 minutes telling you the story they just started, say, interrupt them. I know this is important. It's important to me too. Let's talk about it tomorrow at 8:30 because I want to give it my best time. Cut them off. They interrupted you, and cut them off and redirect them to a time where you can give them your best energy and your best time. That will be very, very helpful. But make sure you stand up when you actually do it. If it's an interruption that comes in that's digital, that's totally up to you. You don't have to answer that text just because it came in right now. You can answer that text in a half an hour. You don't have to answer the email because it was dinging and you started salivating like a Pavlovian puppy. It's up to you. You can take control of your time because you are a steward of time. Take this time, which once it's gone, and use it to the highest, most beautiful way you possibly can. There you go. There's some ideas about how all effective leaders that I've ever been able to rub shoulders with use their time. Use it wisely. Use it well. And there you go. I think you just used about 18 minutes of your time listening to this video. I hope it turned out to be valuable to you. It will be an utter waste of time if you do nothing with it. Take this stuff and apply it right now. Here's to you. Have a great day. Thanks for spending time with me.